My father sat across from me at a restaurant and said it like it was the most natural request in the world. He said, "Shipla, I just need you to call her your stepmom." Just. Like it was a small thing. Like the word was just a word and not something that meant something real. I put my fork down. And I said no. And then I told him exactly why. And by the time I finished talking, my father could not look me in the eye. Welcome to Haely Stories. This is the place where you will find real and emotional women's stories that will touch your heart, make you feel seen, and remind you that you are never alone in what you are going through. If that is something you need in your life, then like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell icon so you never miss a single story. Now let me tell you about the lunch where my father asked me for something I could not give him, and why saying no was the most honest thing I have ever done. My name is Shipla Carey and I am 28 years old. I want to start by telling you about my mother, because this story is really about her as much as it is about anything else. Her name was Mira. She died when I was 19 years old, a sudden illness, the kind that arrives without warning and moves fast and does not give you time to prepare. She was 44 years old. She was the warmest person I have ever known. She had a laugh that started before the joke was finished and a way of listening to people that made them feel like the only person in the world. I've thought about her every single day since she died. Not in the heavy, debilitating way of early grief, that stage passed, as it does, slowly and painfully and eventually. I think about her in the ordinary way that you think about someone who shaped you completely. I catch myself hearing something she would have said. I reach for the phone to call her before I remember. I see her in things, a particular quality of light in the afternoon, the smell of something cooking, a gesture that one of my cousins makes that comes from their shared grandmother. She has been gone for 9 years. She is still present in my life in every way that matters. My father remarried 3 years ago. The woman he married is named Karen. She is pleasant and kind and she makes my father happy and I am genuinely glad about that last part. I have no hostility toward Karen. I want to be very clear about that before I tell you the rest of the story. What I have is a boundary. A single, clear, non-negotiable boundary. I will not call her my stepmom. My father's name is David and he is 57 years old and the 9 years between my mother's death and his remarriage were, for him, a long and genuine grief. I watched him go through it. I was 19 when my mother died, which meant I was old enough to understand what I was watching and young enough that watching it was one of the most painful things I have experienced. He was lost in a way that I had never seen him lost before. He is a practical man, organized, capable, the kind of person who solves problems and moves forward. Grief undid all of that for a long time. He came back to himself slowly. Gradually, over years, he found his footing again. He maintained his friendships. He found pleasure in things again. He spoke about my mother with love rather than only with pain, which I understand is one of the markers of grief moving into something more livable. Met Karen at a work event 6 years after my mother died. He told me about her carefully, with the particular carefulness of a father who understands that introducing a new partner to a daughter who lost her mother is a navigable road but not an easy one. I appreciated the care. I appreciated that he told me himself, that he gave me time to adjust, that he did not present Karen as a fait accompli but as someone he wanted me to know about because she mattered to him. I met Karen. She was warm and unassuming and she clearly loved my father and she was equally clearly nervous about meeting me. I was kind to her. I genuinely was. Not performatively, I actually liked her. She was not trying to replace my mother. She was simply a person who loved my father and was trying to find her place in a family that had a complicated history. They got married 2 years after they met. I attended the wedding. I gave a speech that was genuine and warm. I wished them both well and I meant it. And then my father asked me to call her my stepmom. It did not start with a direct request. These things rarely do. It started with small suggestions. My father mentioning Karen as your stepmom in conversations, testing the phrase, waiting to see if I would adopt it. It started with Karen herself, once, saying something like, I know you probably do not think of me as your mom, but I hope we can be close, which was said with genuine humility and which I had responded to honestly. I told her I was glad she was in my father's life and that I hoped we could be close too. But that the mom word, or any version of it, was something I was not able to use. She seemed to understand. She did not push. My father pushed. Not aggressively, but consistently. In the way of someone who has decided that the thing they want is reasonable and that persistence will eventually produce it, would reference her that way in conversation and pause slightly afterward, giving me the opportunity to echo the word back. I did not echo it back. He would make comments about how much it would mean to Karen if I used the word. I would say that I understood that and that I was sorry but that I was not able to do it. The lunch was the first time he said it directly. He had clearly decided that the indirect approach was not working and that a direct conversation was required. He was not wrong about that, a direct conversation was required. He was wrong about what it would produce. We met at a restaurant on a Saturday afternoon. Just the two of us. My father suggested it as a catch-up lunch and I had no reason to suspect it was anything else. We ordered. We talked about the usual things, my work, his work, family news, small ordinary things. It was pleasant. I was genuinely enjoying it. Then he said, Shipla, there is something I wanted to talk to you about. I said, okay. He said, Karen and I have been talking. And it would mean a lot to both of us if you would use the word stepmom when you refer to her. Not necessarily to her face if you are not comfortable with that. But at least in how you talk about her to other people. To family. I looked at my father. He said, I know it feels like a big thing. But it is just a word. And it would mean so much to her to feel like she is part of the family in that way. I said, Dad, can I tell you why I cannot do that? He said, of course. I put my fork down. And I told him, I said, Dad, I have one mother. Her name was Mira and she died 9 years ago and she is still my mother. That did not change when she died and it will not change if I live to be 100. He said, I know that. Nobody is asking you to forget your mother. I said, the word stepmom is not just a word to me. It is a title. And titles mean something. When I use a title for someone it is because that title is true. Karen is not my stepmother. She is your wife. She is a woman I like and respect and I hope she knows that. But she did not raise me. She was not there when I was growing up. She came into my life when I was 25 years old and I was already fully formed. The relationship I have with her is real, but it is not a mother-daughter relationship and I am not willing to use a word that implies it is. My father said, she is not trying to replace your mother. I said, I know she is not. And I am not accusing her of that. But using the word stepmom would feel, to me, like I was editing my mother out of a role she still holds. And I cannot do that. I will not do that. My mother died. She did not stop being my mother. My father was quiet. I said, I am happy to call Karen by her name. I am happy to introduce her as your wife. I will be kind to her and I will include her and I will build whatever relationship we are going to build. But I will not use a title that does not reflect what is true. And what is true is that I have a mother and she is Mira and she always will be. My father looked at his plate. He did not say anything for a long moment. When my father looked up his eyes were wet. I had not expected that. He said, I did not know it felt like that for you. I said, I did not know you needed me to explain it. I thought it was understood. He said, I think I have been so focused on Karen feeling included that I stopped thinking about what the word meant to you. What it meant in relation to your mother. I said, Dad, I understand why you want Karen to feel like part of the family. I want that too. But there are ways to make someone feel included that do not require me to reassign a title that belongs to someone else. He said, I know. I think I was not thinking about it that way. I said, Karen is your family. She is part of my life because she is part of yours and I value that. But the word stepmom is one I cannot give her and I need you to accept that, he said. Can I ask, does Karen know you feel this way? I said, I told her early on that the mom word was not something I was comfortable with. She said she understood. He said, she did not tell me that. I said, perhaps she understood better than you did. He looked at me for a moment. Then something shifted in his face, not defeat, exactly, but a recalibration. The expression of a man who has been operating on one set of assumptions and has just been given information that changes them. He said, I am sorry, Shipla. I should have asked you about this instead of pushing. I said, yes. You should have. My father spoke to Karen that evening. He called me the next day and told me what had been said. He said he had explained my position, not just the surface of it but the depth of it. The part about my mother. The part about what the word meant and what using it would feel like. He said Karen had been quiet for a long time after he finished. Then she had said, I already knew. She told me when we first met. I told David I was fine with it, but I do not think he heard me properly. My father said he had asked her why she had not pushed back when he started suggesting I use the word. She had said, because it was not my place to push. It was hers to decide. And she decided. I want to tell you what I felt when my father told me that. I felt something settle. The particular settling of finding out that someone you had hoped was decent was actually decent, not as a performance, not to be liked, but genuinely. Karen had known my position from the beginning. She had not gone to my father and asked him to apply pressure. She had said she understood and she had meant it. My father had been the one applying pressure. On Karen's behalf but without her instruction, that distinction mattered to me. It mattered a great deal. After that lunch something shifted between my father and me. Not dramatically. Not the kind of shift that announces itself. The kind that happens when an honest conversation clears something that has been sitting in the air between two people for a while. My father stopped using the word stepmom when he talked about Karen to me. Not because I had asked him to stop, I had not, but because I think the conversation had made him understand why the word landed the way it landed and he was being considerate of that without needing to be asked. He also started talking about my mother more. Again, not dramatically, he had never stopped talking about her entirely. But with more ease. More willingness to bring her into conversations naturally, as she had always belonged in them, rather than with the careful circumspection of a man who was worried that mentioning her would complicate his current relationship. I think the lunch had clarified something for him. That honoring my mother and loving Karen were not in competition. That I had never asked him to choose between them. That all I had ever asked was that the specific word that belonged to the specific relationship was not reassigned to a different one. He understood that now. And once he understood it, the tension that had been building around the subject simply disappeared. Because there was nothing left to push against. My relationship with Karen is its own thing, and I want to tell you what it actually is because I think it matters to the story. We have lunch together sometimes, the three of us, or occasionally just us two. She is interesting to talk to. She has a dry sense of humor that I appreciate and opinions about things that she states directly, which I also appreciate. She is not trying to be my mother. She has never, in any interaction we have had, tried to occupy that space. What she is trying to be, and what I think she is succeeding at, slowly and genuinely, is someone who matters to me in her own right. Not because of what she is called. Because of who she is. Last month she sent me an article she had read because she thought I would find it interesting. She was right. We had an email exchange about it that lasted 3 days and covered more ground than most conversations I have with people I have known for years. She asked me once, carefully and without pressure, whether I would ever be willing to tell her about my mother. She said she had heard things from my father and from the family, but she would like to hear it from me, if I was ever willing. I said, yes. Someday. She said, whenever you are ready. There is no rush. That is who Karen is. She does not need a title. She is building something real through the ordinary accumulation of genuine interest and consistent respect. That is worth more than a word. I think about this sometimes. What my mother would have said about all of it. She was a practical woman in the way that warm people are sometimes practical, not coldly, but clearly. She did not have much patience for things that were performed rather than felt. She valued what was real and she said so, and she expected the people around her to do the same. I think she would have liked Karen. Not because Karen is similar to her, she is not, particularly. But because Karen is genuine in a way my mother always recognized and responded to. The dry humor. The directness. The complete absence of pretension. I think she would have said, be kind to her. She loves your father and she is not trying to take anything from you. I would have said, I know, Mum. I am being kind to her. She would have said, and the word? I would have said, I am not using it. She would have nodded. She would not have pushed. Because she would have understood, not because the word was about protecting her memory, exactly. But because the word was about being honest. About not using language that implied something that was not true. About respecting what was real over what was convenient. She raised me to do that. I am doing it. I am 28 years old and I told my father I would not call his wife my stepmom, and I explained why, and he heard me, and we are closer for the conversation than we were before it. I want to tell you what I know now. I know that words matter. Not because they are magic, they are not. But because the words we use shape the reality we inhabit. When I use a title for someone, I am saying something true about what that relationship is. I am not willing to use titles as social conveniences, as things we say to make occasions easier or to smooth over complexities that deserve to be acknowledged rather than smoothed over. I also know that saying no to something is not the same as being hostile to it. I said no to a word. I did not say no to Karen. I did not say no to my father's happiness. I did not say no to the relationship that Karen and I are building, genuinely, slowly, on honest foundations. Saying no to the word was how I protected the relationship. By refusing to put it on a footing that was not real, I left space for something that is. And I know something about my mother that I want to say clearly, she is still my mother. 9 years after she died, she is still my mother. No marriage and no title and no amount of time will change that. And honoring that, insisting on it, being clear about it when someone asks me to be unclear, is not grief talking. It is love talking. The ongoing, permanent, non-negotiable love of a daughter for the woman who raised her. That love does not require me to be unkind to anyone else. It just requires me to be honest. My name is Shipla Carey. I am 28 years old. My dad said call her your stepmom. I said no. And I meant every word of it. That is my story. He called it just a word. I told him it was not just a word to me. It was a title. And titles mean something. My mother earned hers. and I will not give it to anyone else. Thank you for listening. This is Hayley Stories. We will see you in the next one.